Welcome to Montana's only statewide sports talk show. Broadcast on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Western Montana and across the state on SWX Television.
I like football!
Now, the 2017 Radio Sports Broadcaster of the Year on the show with back-to-back Montana Broadcaster Association awards for sports coverage and award-winning sports journalism. Here is Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez.
Hello, Montana. Day 2 of actual practice for the University of Montana. Day 6 for the podcast. Antonio Brown's frostbitten feet and a little bit of baseball history. Hi, how are you? It is Tutel Nuanez here on a Wednesday afternoon. Hope you are having a fantastic day. Thanks for spending some time with us on your radios, on your televisions on SWX Montana, or on your devices wherever you are, however you're doing it on the World Wide Web. Great to be with you. Hope you are having a wonderful day. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway and Missoula Highway 83 in Sealy. We also are available on the stream. The stream available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That stream is there thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. You can catch the stream on the website, 1029ESPN.com. If you'd like to call, well, we're welcoming that as well, especially today on a Wing It Wednesday. Get your wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern with some trivia today. 329-1899, 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV phone line. What are we going to get into today? Well, a number of things. We went down to University of Montana football practice today. Colter and I did. This is the first one I've been able to attend. I mean, let's be honest, it's only been 2, but I did look at it from the air as I flew in yesterday afternoon, so I caught a little piece of what was going on about 4:30 yesterday, but got to sit down. We chatted with Coach Houck today, so you'll hear some sound from that here coming up in the show, and we'll assess some of the things that we saw, some of our takeaways, which, again, are at this time of year, you're watching guys do individual drills, just a lot more about size, stature, how guys look, and kind of move around and stuff. It's a little ethereal if you're not there, actually. Like, if you hear people, I've heard Colter talk about, hey, this guy looks great, that guy looks great. But if you go down there and you see it, and you start to get a little picture of kind of what, it's easier to assess who looks good, who maybe doesn't look as good, and what's going on. So we'll go through some of that. We do have Wing It Wednesday to do today. Some trivia today. I'm going to do a little baseball trivia with you. There's some history that's been made in the anniversary. Some history made this week and today in baseball. So we're going to go through a little bit of that for Wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern. We will hear from Bobby Houck, as I mentioned, and we may get into some NFL stuff. The first day of Hard Knocks was yesterday. I have not seen the Hard Knocks, so I'm interested in it. But the fact that Antonio Brown has frostbitten feet from a cryogenic chamber, that is a new one. Who was the guy, Colter? Wasn't there like a punter who was out for a game from a fondue accident? Like he tripped and all the hot cheese like burned his leg at a fondue party at his house or something like this. I mean, these are insane what could happen. How do you go into a chamber that's going to be 170 degrees below zero and not have the proper footwear on? I mean, that seems crazy to me.
Well, doesn't Antonio Brown seem crazy to you?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very fair point. That's a very fair point. So lots of stuff to do today. We also got a bunch of stuff to give away in addition to the Wings. Tickets to the Phillipsburg concert. We're going to give those away today. It's the Phillipsburg Outdoor Amphitheater that is happening on August 17th. So coming up in about a week and a half. And this is a benefit for the GSA, the Grizzlies Scholarship Association. Bunch of bands lined up. Shakewell local outfit's going to be down there. Laney Lou and the Bird Dogs, among others, and a bunch of stuff that they're giving away. We're going to give you tickets so you can go down to that as well. So we'll get through all that today. Now, Colter, I want to talk about this stuff that we have here. I want to go through some fall camp stuff with you. But I'm going to start this show just saying some things that you don't know that I'm going to say.
Great. I had quite a rant the other day, so I can't wait to hear yours.
It's not a rant, and you're going to hate this, but you need this.
Okay.
You are experiencing an existential crisis.
Here we go. Therapy on live radio.
This out Right.
Oh,
now,
my gosh.
Since I returned, even before I went back, you just kind of spin in a circle. I don't know what I'm doing. What are we doing? Why am I doing this? I don't know. I don't like this. I'm not happy doing this. Not talking about the radio per se. It's got anything in particular, but just like, you've been at it for a while, and it's just like, well, what am I doing? Why am I here? What am I doing here? Now, this is a very good question to ask. More people should ask these questions and act on them. What did you say to me? You want to be a paleontologist?
No, I did not. Tommy asked me what I wanted to be before I want to be a journalist, and I said a paleontologist. I actually would not want to do that whatsoever now.
Is that digging up dinosaur bones?
It is. Digging up and analyzing archaeological finds, basically.
I mean, there's some good places. Montana's a great spot for it. You go down to Wisdom, right? In the Big Hole, you can get into some dinosaur bones.
Sure.
So what's going on? What do we need? How can we make you a happy man? What's
oh,
it
man.
going to take?
I mean,
because you have
give me $150,000 so I can use it to hire people to help me.
Okay.
I'm 6 weeks behind, 6 days into this thing. But there's no need to talk about this, though, because it's like Jeff Choate always says, put your problems in the middle of the table. Guarantee you want yours back.
No, but here's the thing. This isn't a workload issue.
I am trying to figure out what the meaning of all of this stuff is.
You're very, very.
I understand, but the thing is, I get it. Like I love the communal aspect of college football in Montana, and I love the entertainment aspect of what we do. I am just wondering if I am using my own mental aptitude to the fullest of its capabilities to impact the world in a positive fashion.
Well, let me answer that question for you. You're not.
Thank you.
Guess what? It's okay. It's okay.
Is it, though?
Yes, it is.
Because the main premise I live my life by is that I want to live a life where it takes longer for people to forget me than anybody else. Most people don't live like that.
You mean people that you meet?
No, everybody.
So you want to be a president or a pop icon? Is that what you're saying?
No. And I don't think of it on a global view because I know that I'm going to live in Montana for most of the rest of my days. I just mean it in the little world I live in. I would like to be remembered with reverence and for a lot longer than most.
See, this is different. I mean, being remembered with reverence and being remembered are two different things. I mean, you could just go sock somebody in their tooth and they'll remember you.
I mean, that might be with reverence if you're talking about in my world.
Yeah. I mean, I said that deliberately, and as I was saying it, I was like, why am I saying this? Because he's just going to get so happy about the idea of boxing somebody in the street.
Why are we doing this? Let's talk about the Grizz.
Here's why. Because I want you to be happy.
Well,
thanks.
thanks.
To be happy.
I think that anybody that we talk about this all the time. But let's go straight all the way down the rabbit hole.
Why?
We talk about this all the time.
Yes.
Ignorance is bliss, and if you choose to eat the blue pill, you can live in bliss for the rest of your life.
Sure.
As soon as your eyes are wide open, you're going to be a tortured soul, and it's just the way that it is. It's called the human condition.
Yep.
It's like we always talk about off the air. Expressing gratitude for the things in your life that are good.
Yes.
Helps reaffirm anything when you're having struggles, wondering about the meaning of your existence. And I was really grumpy going to Grizz practice today.
Yes, you were.
I don't like the way that the world has changed in terms of the media. I don't like being considered part of the media, considering the current climate that people absorb the media through and the way that the media is sort of the enemy now in a lot of different sectors of society. Quite frankly, I don't like being associated directly with a great many colleagues that we've shared over the years. But that's just a part of the deal. But I was renewed and revigorated by talking to some good buddies down there at Grizz football camp. You know, we saw Dane Oliver and Kalen Anderson, friends of this show, Missoula Sentinel coaches, and it's all good, man.
And, Craig said, hey, why don't you stand in the shade? That helped me. That pulled me off a little bit.
See? Great advice from a great man.
The key is that, it's the little victories. The things that you do, the satisfaction. Here's the thing. I wrote a couple stories for Skyline Sports. You know that?
Yeah, your next one's due August 29th.
Okay. You know what? You're going to have it.
I'm going to do it. I'm great. I'm into it. I'm going to make you write it tonight. I'm going to use your reward as an episode of Hard Knocks, but I'm not going to let you watch it until you write your story.
Okay. Can do.
Great.
But here's the thing. when you're writing, now I haven't written very much in terms of, published works, if we can put it like that.
It's amazing how good you are at it.
It feels good to have done it, though, right? When you get the thing done and it's out and it's up and it's available and there's a certain, sort of small rush to it, not unlike doing a radio show where now you're out here and you're doing the thing. And, let me say hello to our friends on television, a television show.
Hey, television guys.
And so then it's out. But you've written so much that you putting a story out there, it's just like, okay, next one up. The sensation of the effect of putting a thing out there that is yours, that is your work, your insight, your studious preparation, and then articulation thereof, and so on, and then it's out there, and it's just like, okay, well, what's the next one? Because now you're 6 weeks behind, and you are a prolific writer, and Skyline Sports is a prolific outlet, and so you can't sit there and revel in the victory, the small victory of every single two-a-day that you cover. Oh, can't do two-a-days anymore. But you understand what I'm saying. But nonetheless, you do have to go, when you go post, you go, hey, how about that? Forevermore out there in the world. The glory of print, by the way. It's quote-unquote eternal existence.
Shameless plug. SkylineSportsMT.com. Go check out the story I just wrote last night. It's actually, I thought it was one that I thought was fun when I reread it. It's not complicated whatsoever. We played on this show after the Big Sky kickoff a soundbite from Bobby Hauck talking about summer preparation and his enthusiasm about this season, but also talking about just his philosophies on leadership, specifically pertaining to the quarterback position. And Bobby Hauck said that he feels that he's maybe different than most college football coaches in the fact that he does not think it's essential to have a dynamic leader and a great player at quarterback. If you have one, great. It's not essential. And he made a comment where he said, we won 100 games around here without it. I thought that was a short sell to a certain point because, Craig Oaks is one of the most cerebral players I've seen and also a absolutely dynamite quarterback. The guy threw 35 touchdowns in 2004. Craig Oaks getting hot down the stretch was a key factor to Montana going to the national championship game. Cole Berquist, a little bit of a bias on my side since I lived with him in college, but 2008, 2009, Cole Berquist was a second-team All-League guy. And that's with an offense that was handing the ball to Lex Hilliard and Chase Reynolds all the time. So it wasn't as if he had a ton of opportunities to throw for 1 million yards, and he was still pretty darn good, and then he played pro football for several years. And Andrew Sell's kind of the forgotten man, but Andrew Sell had an absolutely lights-out junior year in 2009, and then he kind of got caught in this weird quarterback rotation with Justin Roper, Robin Pflugrad's first year in 2010, but Sell was so sweet in 2009. And so, a little bit of a short sell there. But regardless, I think it's funny that Bobby Hauck said that, considering he has perhaps the most dynamic leader of any quarterback in the league. I think that Jake Mayer at UC Davis is the most cerebral quarterback in the Big Sky Conference. Eric Berria at Eastern Washington is the most explosive quarterback in the Big Sky Conference. But as far as the guy who's the true rah-rah, in-your-face leader type.
And tough.
Yep. We've seen so many times how often a guy who's a running quarterback can ignite a team. He gets a big run. He bowls over a defender for a first down. He gets up screaming, signs for the first down. Now the defense is going to play better too. Mm-hmm. But most of those guys can't throw it like Dalton Snead can throw it. And that's I think that's where the bridge is. I also think that Bobby Hauck made a very interesting analysis of Dalton Snead's personality, and I thought it was spot on. He's a guy. Dalton's a guy that you and I've gotten to know a little bit. We talked to him for quite a bit of time off the record in Spokane, and he's a cool kid, man. He's a good dude. But Bobby made such a good comment. He said, most kids this day and age care so much about being popular, and they care so much about what their peers think. And we saw it in spring ball last year. Dalton Snead came in and was himself right off the bat and was a very fiery, in-your-face vocal leader as a transfer quarterback. And that can rub a lot of people the wrong way. Right. And Dalton Snead never cared. And he kept rolling with it. And now you can see he's the one first off the bus, jogging the team onto the field for practice. He's getting everybody lined up. So it's ironic that Bobby Hauck thinks that he doesn't necessarily need that guy when he has that guy. And then in the story I wrote about on the other side, Jeff Choate says, I'm not worried about completion percentage or touchdown passes or accuracy or anything. I want the dude who, when he comes into the huddle, he is the dude. He is the dynamic leader. He is the guy that inspires confidence. He is the dog that everybody looks for. He's the alpha. It's just funny that Jeff Choate is describing Dalton Snead as who he wishes he had as his quarterback, and Bobby Hauck says we don't need him. But it's like on the other side, and then Montana State has a couple guys who I think the thing that they're lacking the most is their confidence and their bravado. I mean, Casey Bauman and Tucker Rovick are both 6'5". I mean, Bauman's 6'7". Yeah, you look at all day long, but it's the who do the guys gravitate towards that maybe is missing. So go check that story out, SkylineSportsMT.com. I thought it was just kind of a fun one. But I also, this is one thing that I've always talked about. I always try to be sort of the contrarian to the cliches in sports. And I wrote about it actually in this story. For every Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees, there's a Joe Flacco and a Brad Johnson and a Trent Dilfer. For every Trevor Lawrence, there's a Tim Tebow. There's guys that aren't necessarily the most crazy quarterbacks that are going to win you games, but you can still win at an absolute highest level, whether it's a national championship or a Super Bowl. And I do think that quarterback is the most important position in team sports, but I don't think it's as important as the bill of goods that the American people have been sold. I do think you can win a Super Bowl or a national championship without having an elite quarterback.
100%. I mean, you and I have agreed on this for a long time, that the position of quarterback can be both the most important position in North American sport outside of goalie and hockey, by the way. But the most important position in sports, certainly in football, and be overvalued in terms of its importance. It's critically important, but it isn't more important than the other 21 combined positions that you have on a football team, not to say nothing of special teams.
And I think that we're about to see a absolutely diametric shift that's going to affirm exactly what we're talking about. Every single time that a quarterback that is not one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the league signs a contract for $25 million plus, it's going to reaffirm exactly what we're talking about. Because if you are to the point, think about what Dak Prescott's going to get. I think Dak Prescott's right in the middle of the league in terms of quarterbacks, right? I mean, he's not in the top 10,
no,
but he's not in the bottom third either. He's between 13 and 19 probably.
Sure.
As soon as he gets set amount of money, and only these guys make more money than him, then every guy that's not quite as good as him is going to continue to then leapfrog. And then all of a sudden you're breaking the bank. Till we get to the point where the market will readjust, but we're going to go through a generation, like maybe a half a generation, a 5-year span in the NFL where there's going to be so many guys that are getting overpaid, and it's going to kill the rest of the teams. We're already seeing it. It's why Jared Goff, Patrick Mahomes, and Baker Mayfield are probably the 3 most valuable quarterbacks in the league.
Right.
Because they're not making $25 million, they're making $1 million.
Yes.
And you can actually pay for the rest of your team.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, look at Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers is so good that the Packers are going to be a Super Bowl threat until the day that Aaron Rodgers retires, likely. But if Rodgers wasn't the second highest paid quarterback in the NFL, I think the Packers have so much better of a chance.
Yes. They would. They absolutely would. I mean, he's got Devontae Adams and no one to throw the football to. Scantling.
I don't even know.
Yeah. It's slim pickings. But anyway, the point is accurate. The nice thing, I guess, nice in college football, you don't need to worry about that. You got your scholarships. You can get as many good players as you can get, and it doesn't matter if you got all the good players. Because they all cost the same amount, quote-unquote, cost. So when you come back here, Coulter, to the University of Montana, and we go out to practice today, and we watch guys move around. Now, you were telling me, you started yesterday when I rolled in about some of the guys that are that you were impressed by that you saw yesterday. I spent most of the time with the offense today. I didn't see a ton of the defensive guys, but was there anybody here on day 2? Because here's the thing, people may not, if you haven't been out to some of these practices and stuff like that, you got 100 kids running around.
108 is what Montana brought to camp this year.
108 at Montana, 104 in Bozeman. You got.
I know. I'm interested. I want to ask somebody about that because the limit is 104, but obviously the Grizz are not. The 108 number comes from Montana Athletic Department, so they're obviously not announcing, hey, we're breaking the rules. I think that there's a couple guys that are in camp that don't count.
That aren't.
Maybe they're just like, I don't know how that works though, because I have
a gray shirt type of deal.
Well, yeah, but throughout my career though, there's always been guys that don't get on the fall camp roster because of injuries. Like right now, for example, last year at Montana State, Josh Hill, the returning starting middle linebacker for the Bobcats, he did not get invited to fall camp because he had off-season back surgery. And they said, we're going to add him to the roster later, but we can't use one of our spots for this guy. Mm-hmm. Jabari Johnson, same thing. He's not going to be ready till October. So he's not in fall camp. So I don't know where the delineation comes there, but I guess we'll find out. Regardless, like you're saying, there's 100+ kids out there. It's hard to see everybody.
Right. And, Eric Tabor's out there. He gives you the roster. That's obviously very helpful, so you can go through and start putting numbers to guys and numbers to bodies and stuff like that. But I got a couple of guys that I thought were interesting to me to look at, to see. A lot of young guys, because some of the older guys, you know who they are. You're kind of familiar with them. Mm-hmm. I was totally in agreement with you, about the tight ends. I mean, between the group of about, 4, 5 tight ends that all look.
Well, we saw Colin Bingham. Saw Colin Bingham coming out of the outhouse right when we walked up to the field. I mean, Bingham's always been a specimen, but he looks as good as he's ever looked.
And Bryson Deming is a sophomore, right? Is out there, and they're pretty indiscernible from one another when you talk about just size and body type, and they all look like they've progressed nicely, would be the word to use there.
Well, Matt Rensvold, I mean, he's up to 248 pounds. Right. So you're talking about 6'4", 248, former high school all-state basketball player. I mean, he's got a 35-inch plus vertical, best hands on the team, according to a lot of guys in the program. And that's saying something when you got Jerry Lou McGee and Samari Torrey and Sammy Kim on the team. Rensvold's going to be a real deal weapon this year, I think.
A couple of things that jumped out to me. I thought that Levi Janicaro looked among the other running backs like the biggest running back. I mean, he is big and strong, and I don't know if how talented is he in terms of his vision, his ability to cut, how fast. I don't know about that, but you said to me today, you just got to get him on the field. It doesn't even mean you have to give him the football. It just means he looks like he's a guy who is going to be out there and going to figure out a way to help you out, whether it's paving the way, whether it's carrying the ball a time or two, whatever. But he's a real deal type of football player, it looked like to me. I thought Marcus Knight looked okay. Adam Eastwood, okay. The one guy, though, that to me was the biggest, I'm still trying to figure out what's going on with him, and that's Garrett Graves. Garrett Graves is playing quarterback. And
you notice what color jersey he's wearing, though?
Was it white?
Right. He's wearing right. No, he's wearing white.
White, yeah.
So the Grizz have maroon jerseys for the defensive guys, white jerseys for the offensive guys,
black.
But the quarterbacks are wearing black / charcoal. Yeah, right. And Graves is working out with the quarterbacks, but he's wearing a white jersey.
Yeah.
Which means they're going to work him in at other positions, namely running back on offense.
Well, he is, we interviewed, talked to Garrett Graves, and was he a 4-time state wrestling champion?
2 times.
Just 2.
2-time.
Well, I mean, what's the matter with him?
Actually, he might have won multiple. He might have won even more, but he went straight undefeated his last 2 years. I know that's the definitive stat.
Okay, we'll try and fact check that and find out exactly how many he did win. But multi-time state wrestling champion, obviously an outstanding football player, and could not wait for the vaunted and hallowed's the word, but sort of rumored,
dreaded in a lot of cases,
dreaded in many cases, winter conditioning that Bobby Hauck puts together thought it was going to be a great proving ground. And to have that sort of mentality at 18 years old, and you go, oh yeah, this is the type of kid that's going to thrive in a program like this. And you see him out there, he's not. He looks tremendously athletic. He looks very, very strong. He's not that big. He's not like a big, bulky football player type of guy. But you can see, it seems to me, the level of athleticism that he could bring to the table. And again, you talk about offensive versatility, whether it's running back, whether it's a quarterback, or whether it's something else altogether. But he's another one you feel like, man, he needs to get worked in some way or another, because I thought he jumped to me because he's very unique. He's a very unique looking and moving guy. He moves with great fluidity, with great athleticism, and with strength, but not the strength that's just muscle bound. It's a much more sleek, if I could say it like that. He feels like like a Jaguar sports car as opposed to just a straight American muscle car, if that makes sense. If I could use a car analogy, which I know nothing about, I should probably stay away from it as I continue to cruise around in my Hyundai. But that's what I thought of, about him, and I will be very intrigued to see where and how he fits into a role, because for him to be quarterback is great, but let's be honest, the 1 and the 2 are both set for the University of Montana with Dalton Snead and Cam Humphrey. So to have a guy like that there, it seems like, yeah, you got to have depth at the position. Maybe he's the future of the quarterback spot for Montana if they will continue to want to do and use a much more mobile type of quarterback, which I think is part of what this grooming might be for the future. But you got to let your horses run, as they say, and he would be one, it seems to me.
Well, you mentioned the fact that he's not that big yet. Well, you got to remember he was wrestling at 182 pounds, so he's up to 202, which is good gains so far, right?
Sure.
And I think if he was to if there was a decision made that he was going to play running back or if he's going to play linebacker, I think he could easily become 220. Yeah, I mean, pretty rapidly. So, yeah, I think his physical development has a lot of potential. But, I've said this a lot of times already on this show. I think that quarterback is Garrett Graves' like 4th or 5th best position at the college level. Mm-hmm. I think that he has a lot more upside as a running back, even an H-back or a tight end, outside linebacker, maybe even a safety, although I'm not sure he's quite fast enough for that. But he is when you watch him, he threw 2 picks while I was down there yesterday. He threw a couple not great balls today, but that doesn't demean his athleticism. I mean, he is a great natural athlete, and I think he's got an innate toughness that will certainly endear him to the Montana coaching staff. So I'll be interested to see where they find a fit for him. But to me, the white jersey is indicative of they're going to try him at some other spots in this camp.
One more thing quickly, Coulter, before we actually, no. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to come back to this because we spent some time doing some therapy.
Thanks.
So we want to stay. We're going to come back to this. We're going to get some Houck sound together for you and do some of that, and we will continue the ongoing conversation as it pertains to fall camp. We also want to get into some NFL stuff, but right now, what I would like to do is this. Let's do this. I want to combine these things. It's time for a Wing It Wednesday. I got some trivia questions for you, some baseball history stuff. 329-1899, area code 406-329-1899. We also, though, in addition to the winner of the Wing It Wednesday this week, going to give away a pair of tickets to the Phillipsburg concert. This happens annually out at the Phillipsburg Outdoor Amphitheater in Winninghoff Park in Phillipsburg. And they got a lineup on August 17th, going to be all day from noon to about 7 p.m. Some great bands. Shakewell going to be out there. Listen to Shakewell. It's a fun band to go listen to. Ryan, Chris, and the Rough Cuts, a bunch of others, home cooking, etc. Going to be food, drinks, auction. It is a benefit for the Grizzly Scholarship Association, the GSA, and for the Phillipsburg Rotary Charities. So it's a great event for a good cause and a lot of fun. They're going to have a ton of stuff to auction off. How about this? This is my favorite one. 4 tons of alfalfa hay is one of the items. Listen, you got some animals, you need some hay, you go down there, you get it at Phillipsburg on the 17th. Anyway, we'll give away a pair of tickets with some wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern via some trivia right after this. 329-1899. Give us a call, 329-1899. We'll play some games next.
Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula is like your paint doctor. They take the pain out of painting. Don't trust your home to anything less than professional PPG paints from Garden City Paint and Glass. Go to visualizecolors.com. Scan in your room photo to see what color combinations will look best before painting. That's visualizecolors.com, featuring professional PPG paints. Garden City Paint and Glass in Missoula, across from the Southside McDonald's at 3217 Brooks.
Alpine Touch has mastered keeping your taste buds happy by spicing up anything you throw on the grill this summer. Now, let Alpine Touch keep your mouth watering whenever you want their new sunflower shooters. Their new jumbo sunflower seeds seasoned with Alpine Touch's world-famous all-purpose seasonings and Alpine Touch sunflower shooters will be available all summer at every Osprey baseball home game. Available at retail locations around the state and online at alpinetouch.com. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Now, the Montana Club's happy hour features BOGO beverages. Our expertly mixed cocktails, microbrews, domestics, and wine are buy one, get one free 7 days a week from 3 to 5:30. Stop in on Friday for Montini night. Sip on a top shelf martini for only $6, 5:30 to close. When you've worked hard all day and are ready to relax, the Montana Club has got you covered with BOGO happy hour 7 days a week, 3 to 5:30 on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at SelwayArmory.com. Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here with Josh from The Advocates. If you've been in a car accident and need help dealing with the insurance company, you should give The Advocates a call.
It doesn't cost anything at all to call, and I'd be happy to talk with you about your situation. You don't want to have to be dealing with contacting the insurance companies and setting up your claim. We can do that for you from start to finish. We'll take the hassle out of the process so you can just focus on getting better.
There you go, folks. If you've been injured in an accident, give Josh a call, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers, but you deserve an advocate.
Welcome to today's lottery drawing. And today's winning numbers are not yours, not yours, and another number that's not yours. And the final number is not yours.
When it comes to having money, don't rely on luck. Brew your own coffee at home instead of buying that latte. Brown bag it to work instead of ordering it. Go to feedthepig.org for more free ideas on how to save. Feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. The Montana Grizzlies started fall camp officially on Sunday, but hit the practice grass at Dornblaser Field for the first time yesterday afternoon. Temperatures were about 90 degrees. I can attest they were nearly that warm, at least today as well. UM will practice 28 total times over the next month, leading up to their August 31st opener at South Dakota. They're trying to snap a 3-year absence from the playoffs, a skid which comes on the heels of qualifying for the FCS playoffs 23 of 25 seasons, including a college football record 17 consecutive times. Bobby Houck's squad returns a host of starters, including senior quarterback Dalton Snead and All-American inside linebacker Dante Olson.
Over the weekend, Grizz got a verbal commitment from Journey Grimsrud, a 6'3.5", 240-pound All-State lineman from Huntley Project. The senior-to-be was an All-State selection on both offense and defense last season and is expected to play defense at Montana. Grimsrud placed second at the State BC Wrestling Tournament in the heavyweight division last winter and won the Class B state title in the discus last spring.
The first Stats FCS preseason poll is out, and the Montana State Bobcats are ranked 14th, while the Grizzlies come in at 25th. The Cats and Grizz are 2 of the 5 Big Sky Conference teams in the media poll. UC Davis is at 4. Number 5 is Weber State. Weber State at 8. Eastern Washington at 4. UC Davis at 5.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Time for a Wing It Wednesday. Nice to be back in the saddle. I want to remind everybody, tomorrow, come down to Red's Bar. We're going to be doing the show from Red's tomorrow. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're giving away tickets to the Grizzly-Oregon game on September 25th. On September 14th. So you got to come down there and get your name in the box. You can go down there right now, put your name in the box, and then we will be picking a name tomorrow. So come down there, hang out with us, and how about this? The first $100 on the tab, we got it covered. Woo! How's that for a nice start to your Thursday afternoon, 4 o'clock? Couple of cold ones down at Red's Bar. Yes, please, very much. It is time for a Wing It Wednesday. We go to the phones and we welcome in Joe to the show. Joe, how are you?
Doing great today, folks.
Glad to hear it, Joe. Glad to hear it. Now, here's the deal. We've sweetened the pot for you today, Joe. In addition to wings from the Desperado Sports Tavern, which, let's be honest, you could stop right there and walk away a happy man. Am I right?
You got it.
I like to hear it. You can also get a shirt, and also we're going to throw in a pair of tickets to the Phillipsburg concert. It's a GSA fundraiser with a bunch of bands, an all-day big party in Phillipsburg, which they do each year. We're going to set you up with that as well. So all you got to do is answer a couple of trivia questions. We'll ask you 3 questions. You get 2 of them. You are a big winner. You get a third one. We'll give you a shirt. If you need help, Coulter is your lifeline, all right?
Coulter, you got to be on today because I'm probably haven't been in the sports loop lately, but I'll give it a shot.
I got you. I got your back.
Boy, some chicken wings are going to hit the spot. Tommy likey. Tommy want wingy.
All right, Joe, here we go. Baseball and baseball history, and believe me, Coulter being your lifeline on this is it's a good thing. It's a good thing, okay?
Okay.
Here we go. Question number 1. On this date, August the 7th, 12 years ago, what record did Barry Bonds set in Major League Baseball?
RBIs. That's a guess. I need some backup on that. I'll go with my lifeline right away.
Lifeline right away. Right away. Okay, go ahead. Okay, here
August 7th, 2007, Barry Bonds hit his 756th career home run.
Oh.
To become the all-time leader in the history of Major League Baseball in career home runs.
Okay.
Would you like to take that one?
I will take that one.
It is a fact. Home run, not into McCovey Cove, but in San Francisco, and a giant melee ensued for that baseball. That's the lottery ticket right there. He hits that baseball to you. You go down there, you got $1 million in your pocket. You know what I mean?
Oh, I would just give it back to him. Ha ha.
Very good, Joe. All right, you got it. You used your lifeline. You used it well. Very good. Here's the second question related to the first question. What home run champion, home run slugger, all-time home run hitter did Barry Bonds pass when he hit that 756 home run, a baseball player who previously had 755 total home runs in his career?
Hank Aaron.
Hank Aaron. Still the undisputed king of the home run.
Yep.
Undisputed.
I think it's fascinating that Hank Aaron is somehow underrated.
I think so, too. Probably an era that just didn't have the media attention out there. Maybe, I don't know, baseball used to be more popular. You thought really he had a great player.
Absolutely. I mean, and I just mean underrated just in the terms of when you think of guys from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, you certainly remember Henry Aaron. But he is among peer company like Willie Mays and Ted Williams and Joe DiMaggio and Stan Musial and a bunch of other guys where when you actually look at the numbers, with the exception of Ted Williams because he went to 2 different wars and really impacted his overall numbers. I mean, Hank Aaron has the 4th most hits in baseball history. He wasn't just a home run hitter. To hit 755 bombs and hit 305 for your career is amazing.
And wasn't a bad outfielder either.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was good. I mean, he was. And I think, I guess, if he'd have been in more playoff contentions over the times, maybe more series, that might have brought him attention. But, that's the past. And so, anyway, great player.
Well, you are also a great player, Joe, because you've got 2 questions. You've got a basket of wings to the Desperado and a pair of tickets out to the Phillipsburg concert at the Phillipsburg Outdoor Amphitheater. Congratulations. Very well done.
Thanks.
Here we go. Question number 3. Let's see if we can throw a shirt in there for you as well, okay? The Minnesota Twins made a unique defensive play today. It's one that doesn't happen very often. However, they have now done it twice in the last 3 weeks, the Twins have. Can you tell me what play they made?
Triple play.
Triple play is absolutely right. 3 for 3, Joe.
Well, thanks for the lifeline. I didn't know it was RBIs or homers back then. I thought it might be tricky, so I went with RBIs. It had to be one of the two. So I'm glad I had my lifeline.
You got it. That's why we got the lifeline there. You used it well, and you are walking away with a whole boatload of stuff. So give your information to Reese, and we'll get you set up with all of it, okay?
Okay. Keep up the good show, you guys.
Thanks,
I'm glad
Joe.
the football's back on the air, and I'm excited about the Grizz. So thanks a lot. Talk to you guys later.
You bet. There you go, Joe. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good haul. Dude, Phillipsburg, I think a lot of people go down to Phillipsburg in the winter, Discovery and all that kind of stuff. But hanging out in Phillipsburg during the day on a nice, summer day and so forth, hard to do better than that.
No doubt.
All right. Very good. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back. Bobby Haupt had some things to say at practice today. I don't know if we find out what his favorite type of donut is, but he does request donuts from me for a interview snafu. You'll hear that. And some more information about Grizz practice in the fall next.
Hey, Tutel Nuanez here. Can't tell you how many times we've heard the face for radio joke since we came on SWX television, but it's been a fun endeavor so far.
And now our esteemed producer Tommy is pushing the envelope even further. We got our own YouTube channel.
That's right. If you want to watch us every day from your computer, your tablet, your cell phone, you can check out Tutel Nuanez on YouTube.
Tutel Nuanez, live every weekday from 4 to 6 in the afternoons on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula, SWX Montana statewide, and now around the planet Earth on YouTube. Hey everybody, here with my good friend Josh from the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, if I've been in an accident, how much is it going to cost me to hire you?
Well, we take cases on a contingency fee. And what that means for you is that if you're hurt in an accident, we only get paid if you make a recovery. You'll never owe us anything out of pocket.
What about the call for a consultation?
That's not a problem. We don't charge anything for an initial consultation, so you have absolutely nothing to risk by calling us.
If you're injured in a car accident, call the Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at canyonrivergolfclub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce two of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get up to $150 instant rebate on 4 backcountry MT or AT tires, or $50 on 4 road control passenger tires. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time. Terms and conditions apply. Details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
When you need a bank to help ramp up your savings strategy, look to your local bank, Opportunity Bank of Montana. Build confidence in your financial future when you create a rainy day cushion or take care of the nest egg you already have. Opportunity Bank offers options from basic savings to money market accounts and certificates with competitive rates. There's nothing like the feeling of progress, so let's get started today. Come see us at Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com. Member FDIC.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Hi, how's it going? Is it good? I hope it's well with you. Thanks for being with us. Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. And online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you are looking for the podcast, good. It's out there. You go to any of your favorite podcasting platforms, TuneIn Radio app, iTunes, Spotify, whatever. What do they have it on? Stitcher?
Yep.
Anyway, it's there. It is brought to us by the Wingate by Wyndham Hotels. So go listen to it, rate it, review it. We appreciate all of that. Thanks for doing it. We're going to play a little bit here from Bobby Hauck, from actually a fair amount here from practice today. Kind of a roundtable session with the members of the media, and give you a taste for it. What do you ask? How do you get? What are you trying to find out right now? Some positional stuff. Thought there was some interesting stuff in there, but you just get Bobby Hauck in all of his haukiness, which I liked very much. Some people, I don't know. I find him entertaining. I find both Jeff Choate and Bobby Hauck highly entertaining for very different reasons, but I do find it entertaining. So we'll play this. We'll talk about it. Here you go, Bobby Hauck from practice earlier today.
All right. Fire away.
Coach, on day two.
Wait, who's the new Derek?
See, this is what happens. He wants to slow me down. You know what I mean, Coulter? I'm all ready to go here. Now he's ready. Okay, here we go.
You're obviously not game planning, doing installations of that nature. What are you trying to accomplish in the second day when it comes to just teaching football?
Well, we get more of the offense and defense in. That's first couple days, especially when we're in no pads, we spend more time installing the offense, defense, kicking game. So heavy installation day, and then we'll get out and play a little bit more when we get the shoulder pads on tomorrow.
Day two, what was your takeaway from day one?
I thought the veteran guys looked pretty solid, and I thought the new guys looked the opposite of that. Looked like hell, basically.
Is it important for the new guys to come along just in terms of the overall operation of fall camp?
Well, certainly. The farther we can bring them along, the faster, the better our depth's going to be. So they're competing for playing time. That we expect them to be swimming a little bit, but we want them to catch up quick.
Yeah, the tight ends are a group that made a physical impression, at least to me yesterday. They all look really good. I know it's a group you brought the position back, but now in year two, especially with guys with experience like Deming, Rensvold, Bingham, what do you expect out of that group, and what do you think of just how they look right now?
Well, they look good physically. They had a great offseason, all of them. They're all workers, so that all that time in the weight room should show up, and it does with that group. We've got to keep recruiting that position, and I don't have any assessment on the young guys yet, but keep recruiting those guys. You can never have too many of them.
You mentioned recruiting. Obviously, you're a great recruiter. Do you pride yourself on having the amount of depth at the positions that you have at depth right now?
Well, I think it's key for both short-term and long-term success. So we just got to keep going. We're getting there, but I wouldn't say we're there yet.
Angel Villanueva on the line, a guy who changed his body a lot. What do you want to see out of him during the fall?
Well, we just want him to increase his level of play. He's committed to improvement. I think he's down about 40 pounds, which is helping him. And, it's a big fall camp for him.
Is that left guard spot one of the more up for grab ones on the line?
Up for grab, as you know. But, they're all up for grab. So, that's up for grabs.
You mentioned Angel's weight loss. There's about 5 offensive linemen that lost some weight, but they're still all over 300 pounds. So do you like the fitness that they came in with, or where do you stand on just, still being able to be big even if you are a little bit more fit?
Yeah, I think you almost have to get out of the mindset where guys are trying to gain in this day and age. All the high school kids think they have to be 300 plus, and most of the time when they come in, over 300, there's a handful of them that this isn't the case. There's no absolutes, but most of the time when they come in and they're 330, 335, they're not fit, and we need to be fit enough to move our feet and compete and knock people around. So you owe donuts.
Sorry. Dalton had a lot of good things to say about Cy Sermon at the center position. Maybe just talk about what it's been like for him finding a home at center and what you expect from him.
Well, Cy's a good athlete. He's very athletic for an offensive lineman, which is what you look for. He's grasping more and more of it, and playing center is just kind of the next step in his evolution. I think we had some film time last night, and he's grasping everything really well.
With a couple of transfers, you have a ton of guys listed in the secondary right now. What did those transfers bring in, and what's the level of competition right there?
Well, I don't know what they bring yet because I haven't seen them enough. I mean, so we'll see. We need to see if they can get on the field now or later. That's TBD. But, you know, they can run. They've all got good coverage skills off the film we evaluated them on, and, you know, we'll see how fast they can step it up to compete for playing time.
Chase Lewis kind of bided his time behind Josh Butts last season. What are your expectations for him as he kind of takes on a bigger role?
Well, there better not be anybody biding their time anytime around here. You better go compete. So I wouldn't necessarily agree with that assessment. Yeah. But, you know, Jace split time with Josh last year, and was a productive player, and he needs to keep going. You know, you expect guys to be better as juniors than they were as sophomores, so hopefully he plays better.
It seems like among the wide receivers, you have guys that can do different things and different, you know, body types and heights and things like that. Is that kind of what you want in a wide receiver group, like a bunch of different guys that can do different things, or does it really matter to you?
Yeah, I mean, if you get 3 Calvin Johnsons and throw them out there, then you do that, but that's not real world, right? So you get the best player you can, and we plug him in. Certainly, certainly we don't want all little guys, but, you know, the smaller in stature guys that have some quickness and some explosive ability have a place in this offense.
So there you go, Bobby Hauck from earlier this afternoon, just going through a few of the things that have to do with camp. Yes, we would like to have 3 Calvin Johnsons. I'd like to have 1 Calvin Johnson, for that matter.
Well, they might have the Calvin Johnson of the FCS.
Pretty close, exactly. That's pretty good. But, you know, a couple things, when we talk about installing the offense and the defense, right, Coulter? You see them running. They get their playbook. They're running through plays. They have, you know, essentially a 7-on-7. Not even. I mean, it's like a 5-on-5 with just the skill. No line. Basically, they're playing football with no line and skeleton.
It's called Skelly.
And running through each and every play. What is your responsibility? What do? You go through it and you memorize it so each guy knows for sure where he's going on any given play. They have a set of plays, and they have an offense and a defense that they install and all that kind of stuff. What I would like to know is, you put this stuff in, it becomes just, I don't want to say rote in terms of boring, but there's such repetition to it, it becomes automatic. I mean, that's the idea here, that you just know instantly what it is that you got to do so you don't have mistakes and so forth like this. But then when it becomes time for a game plan against a given opponent, how does that work, Coulter? Because, you know, the thing for the New England Patriots, right, everybody says, well, they don't even have an offense and a defense. They just have whatever they're going to do that week, and it's all brand new the week before, and that's part of the genius of Bill Belichick. Now, I don't know if that's 100% accurate. Got to have some things, I guess, that they do. But how much, when you install an offense, and this is what the offense is that you have, but now you're going to do something presumably unique each week as well. How does that work together? How does that fit together?
Well, you always hear, especially lately, the trend now is they call it, they say they're going to front load the install. So you want to get every single thing that you could even think about maybe possibly running in a game installed generally in the first 3 to 4 days before you go full pads. And coaches always talk about the learning curve of that. And veteran teams, oftentimes, they are not, the cliche line that all football coaches use, drinking out of a fire hose. Veteran teams usually aren't drinking out of a fire hose until the 3rd or 4th day of install. A lot of times young teams are drinking out of a fire hose day one in terms of the amount of stuff that they're trying to teach them in the meeting room and then implement on the practice field. But I think that's one thing that's kind of lost on people is that some of the most brilliant offensive coordinators in college football don't necessarily fit this mold, but by and large, most teams, they put together a game plan for a game that does not include all of the stuff. You don't even really prepare to have all 80 of your offensive calls. You prepare to have 20 to 25, and then you go back to your bread and butter within the scope of that game. And I think that's sometimes why you see a game like the Grizz against Portland State last year. The package that you prepared just was incorrect for what the other team's defense is, or they completely surprised you out the gates. And Portland State runs that weird flex defense, but the whole concept of the flex is that once the defense gets one step ahead of the offense, it continues to be one step ahead of the offense because of the funky way you can't get into a rhythm. But a lot of times, if you prepare this eight personnel group package for a game like that, and then it's not good, you got to go into halftime and you got to scrap it. And that's why people always talk about halftime adjustments. What'd you say to the guys at halftime? It's my least favorite question that ever gets asked, because it's not what you say. It's what did you change at halftime? That's the question that the media guys should ask. It's not about the inspiration that the coaches say. It's about what they draw on the board to fix it.
Yeah.
Jason McIndoe was the offensive line coach at Montana State for a long time. One of the best in-game adjusters I ever seen. If the packages that they had designed up weren't working, boom, he could just draw it on the board and make it right. And we've seen that here too. I thought I thought Rob Fennessy was tremendously good at it. His tenure as offensive coordinator under Bobby Hauck, a lot of people thought Fennessy's game plans were vanilla, and a lot of times they were, but his adjustments were always really good. And same with Craig Paulson on the defensive side for the Grizz as well.
But also adjusting, it's not like you go in and you go, hey, we're gonna do something that we've never done before. You go in and say, hey, remember when we did the installations and this is one of your grab bag of 100 things?
Right, but then you also have to make sure that it matches up against what you're going against too, exactly. And that's the hardest part.
Right. I mean, that's the work of the coach to figure that out. But he's not going up, and it's not like, on the playground and you're drawn with a stick in the sand or on the whiteboard and going, this is what we're going to do. You go, here's the set of plays that we haven't used yet against this. This is going to work. Here's why. So this is what we need to be ready to do. But the work to know what to do is getting done right now. That is, I think, kind of the part of the process of fall camp and what that is, because you are learning plays right now that, I don't know, maybe it doesn't get called until November the 11th or whatever it might be, but you need to be able to handle that and deal with it. And granted, it's not learning 110 individual things. It's not learning your states and capitals. You need to learn a dozen probably very broad things, and then there's specifics within that, right? I mean, when you talk about route trees and you talk about, reading a defense and what that's going to indicate to you as a wide receiver, you learn how to do that stuff, and then the specifics of what you're going to do in a given play sort of come to be.
No doubt. The other interesting thing I thought was that we only shared about half of what Coach Hauck had to say. Check out SkylineSportsMT.com later on. I talked to him a little bit about the pass rush. One of the most interesting stats I found yesterday in writing my 5 position groups to watch, 5 position battles to watch, was that an edge player, a guy that plays on the edge, whether it's the stand-up defensive end that they have in their scheme or the strong end, only made 1 sack a year ago. And that was from Jed Nagler, who wasn't even a starter. Montana's defensive line only had 7 sacks last year. Only 1 from an edge player. That's an incredible thing, considering Bobby Hauck coached multiple teams that had 50 sacks in a year. And he had multiple teams that had multiple double-digit sack guys. So we talked about that. We'll share that a little bit later on. But we talked about the offensive line. And Frank Gogolo from the Missoulian asked about Angel Villanueva's weight loss. And, according to the official roster, he lost 23 pounds. Bobby Hauck said he's lost 40 pounds. You look at him, he looks way, way, way more athletic. Mm-hmm. He's still 6'5", 300, so it's not as if he's an undersized guy now. He still is at 3 bills. So, but I thought what Coach Hauck said is something that I've been banging on the table talking about for a long time. I thought it was the biggest flaw in Bob Stitt's recruiting methods. If you weigh over 315 pounds when you're a high school kid, the chances of you being an athletic player are so limited.
Right.
You're just going to be so slow. And it's just not good for your development. I just think that the theory that Bobby Hauck has in terms of recruit them athletic, long, lean, and put the weight on. Bring them in at 240 and get them to 285, 290, rather than bring them in at 315. It's reflected by what they tried to do this offseason, too. I mean, Tyler Ganong lost almost 20 pounds. He still weighs 320. Dylan Eichmeyer lost 10-plus pounds to get under 300. Sean Anderson, another Bobsett recruit, lost almost 20 pounds. But he's still at 301. Cody Canoose lost 17 pounds. He's still at 318. It's like Coach Hack was saying, that's plenty. I mean, if 315 is plenty of weight, and especially if you have added strength and you've had added fitness, and you have added footwork, you're going to be better. The addiction to mass, I think, is a thing of the past, especially with how much of a priority speed is in the college game now.
Well, and to your point, we talked about this kid at practice, but Colin Drace, who is a freshman, he's not going to play. He's redshirting in the whole deal from Tucson, Arizona. He walks out there. He's an offensive lineman, 6'7", 228.
Yeah.
And, my comment to you is that's what when you talk about projecting a frame, because 6'7", 228, it sounds big, obviously, if you're that tall, but it doesn't sound big in terms of an offensive lineman. It feels like a basketball player, right? He doesn't look like a basketball player, though. He looks like a football player. Like, he looks bigger than 228, if I was going to guess. But when he's standing there with the rest of the offensive line, I mean, it helps to be 6'7". So you're 6'9" with your helmet and cleats on. But you go, I'm like, well, who's this kid? Oh, well, he's not going to play for probably 2 more years. But in 2 years, he's going to be maybe 6'7", maybe taller, and probably 260. And then he's going to be loading up on people and mobile, though, like and fluid. And that was the thing. I mean, Mallory, like we talked about today, he's 315. Him doing the crossover foot drill, not the prettiest thing you ever did see.
Totally.
So all that plays into it.
I mean, the tight ends of Bobby Hauck's first tenure at Montana: Stephen Failer, Greg Hardy, Dan Bowden. I mean, Steve Failer was a high school wide receiver. He was a basketball guy. He was 6'5", 190 pounds. Mm-hmm. We didn't see Failer our whole freshman year, and he came back fall camp. Oh, Steve weighs 230 now. What have you been doing, Steve? Lifting, eating, hanging out at the food zoo? Dan Bowden, 6'6", 200, coming out of Trout Creek, Montana. By the time Dan Bowden was done, house. It's 265 pounds. Yeah. But like lean muscle, can still move, can still run. Greg Hardy, a little bit heavier than those guys coming in, probably about 220, 225. But Greg Hardy is one of the strongest. I mean, hardest is what I would describe him as. My brother has horror stories of going against Greg Hardy in practice, because if you go heads up with Greg Hardy, it don't matter how much he weighs. He's trucking you because he's got so much muscle mass. Yeah. And I think I think it's the right way to recruit at this level, because if you're a 6'5" or taller guy that weighs 290 pounds or more, and you are a Division I football recruit, if you're good, if you're athletic and you have lean muscle and that's good weight, you're going to Alabama. You're not coming to Montana.
Right.
So that's why I think that this is the best way to recruit and develop. I guarantee you, if Bobby Hauck is here for a little while, which I expect him to be, the situation that is Colton Kynes will never happen again. Colton Kynes got thrown to the wolves, and he's 6'8". He's a developmental guy. They wanted to have him in the program so they could develop him, but then all of a sudden he's starting as a redshirt freshman at 270 pounds. I mean, huge props to Colton Kynes for getting up to 304 now. So now he's 6'8", 304. Mm-hmm. That's going to help him a ton. But you don't want to be in the situation where he's having to play as a redshirt freshman.
Right.
You can get to the situation where he doesn't have to play till he's a redshirt junior. Now all of a sudden you have a guy that's just a plug and play. He's ready to roll.
Sutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Quick break. Come back. Hour number 2. We'll get into the NFL. Right after this, Coulter, still summer, bro. Still August the 7th, and it is still time to get out there and rotate at the hips and smoke that drive OB. That's what I'm about. Get out there and hit the little white ball around. In your case, yellow. Got to be able to see it. You're 9 out of 10 on the worst eyes ever kind of thing that you got going. You got to get if there's ever a golf ball that can literally catch on fire while you hit it, you know what I mean? And then you just can see the thing fly. That's the one you need. Burning out there, setting the weeds aflame. Maybe that's not a great idea. Anyhow, it is a great idea to get out to Canyon River. Canyon River Golf Club has a spectacular setting. It is in prime shape. It doesn't get better than this right now. Sitting there along the Clark Fork River, watching the kids float by. Actually, you're really not, because you're protected from the kids on the golf course. It's nice. They put up a nice big hedge all the way around. But it is awesome to go out there. We've been telling you all year long about the brand new fleet of golf carts. If you haven't been, or if you have, you know how great it is. The Shark experience, to be able to have an interactive golf touchscreen, see every hole, distances to the pins, to the greens, to hazards, set up shots. Tell me how far off of the fairway I am in my case. And believe me, I'm not alone, okay? Listen, good golfers, the Shark experience is still nice. For mediocre golfers like the most of us, it's the biggest help in the world because you can't tell how far away you are from whatever it is you're trying to get to. It's awesome. Surround sound. You can order food on the thing. You can plug in your Bluetooth. Coulter and I, we got, the new Tool album's coming out later. I don't know how loud they want us to play that on the golf course, but hey, why not? You got the Bluetooth. You link into that thing. You're rocking and rolling. Also, They have the Finn Cycles. It's a motorcycle golf cart. It goes fast. It's a lot of fun. It's a great way to play around a golf, and you can play it in a hurry, too, on those things flying around the course. They got them, 6 of them out there. If you don't want to use the cart, you could use the motorcycle and go riding around on that. Canyon River. Online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Set tee times online. Save a ton of money. Great time of year to go play golf. Canyon River, Missoula's ultimate golf experience.
At the Montana Club, our goal is to create a menu of mouth-watering food with variety to satisfy any craving. From the garden-fresh ingredients in our salads to our succulent, perfectly grilled Montana Club Angus steaks, we take pride in every detail that goes into preparing your food. Top off your meal with a premium cocktail, wine, or microbrew. Come as you are and satisfy your craving with our home-style breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, and you may think you'd pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it, but not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with knowledgeable specialists that can answer your questions. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at SelwayArmory.com.
Here at Florence Coffee, our Huckleberry Lemonade is a favorite to our lineup of refreshing summer drinks.
For a fun twist on my favorite drink, you can get it made with our house-brewed iced black tea or soda water for a fizzy treat that's sure to beat the summer heat.
So stop by any Flowco locations throughout Western Montana and visit FlorenceCoffeeCo.com.
The best flavor under the big sky, Florence Coffee Company.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in Western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes, too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River. Hey everybody, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate. For 20 years, the Missoula Osprey have brought Missoula a fan-friendly experience in one of the most beautiful summer settings in America, and the baseball has been top-notch as well. ESPN Missoula is happy to be the exclusive radio carrier of the Missoula Osprey once again this summer. Tune in to 102.9 FM to hear every single Osprey game as the Birds chase another Pioneer League title. The Missoula Osprey broadcasts are brought to you in part by Widmer Brothers Brewing, Diversified Construction and Materials, Mission Paint, and Selway Armory.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon. Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, Sports Center for you. The Montana Grizzlies started fall camp officially on Sunday, but hit the practice grass at Dornblazer Field for the first time yesterday afternoon. Temperatures, well, quite warm around all of Montana. UM will practice 28 total times over the next month, leading up to its August 31st opener at South Dakota. I cannot wait. Montana is snapping a trying to snap a 3-year absence from the playoffs, a skid that comes on the heels of being in the FCS playoffs 23 of the last 25 seasons, including a college football record 17 consecutive times. Our squad includes a host of returning starters, including senior quarterback Dalton Snead and All-American inside linebacker Dante Olson.
In-state recruiting news, Grizz got a verbal commitment from Journey Grimsrud, a 6'3.5", 240-pound all-state lineman from Huntley Project. The senior debut was an all-conference selection on both offense and defense last season, expected to play on the D-line for the Grizz. Grimsrud placed second at the state BC wrestling tournament in the heavyweight division and won the Class B state tournament in the discus.
Do you think he's named after traveling or after the band?
There's already a debate on eGrizz about this.
In the first Stats FCS preseason poll, the Montana State Bobcats are ranked 14th, while the Montana Grizzlies are 25th. There are 3 other teams in the Big Sky. Number 4 is Eastern Washington, UC Davis at 5, and number 8, Weber State.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
Great name, though. Journey. Love it. Love it. Hi. Welcome to hour number 2 of the big show. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, SWX Montana Television. Hi. How are you? Great to be with you. Thanks for being with us on a Wednesday afternoon. 20 minutes from now, a Wing It Wednesday coming up. You want wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern. Coulter will be asking some questions. I will be doing my best to help you answer those questions. So make sure you get in for that. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway and Missoula Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you want to call, 329-1899 is the phone number. 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rankage Brothers RV phone line. Coulter, I want to get into some NFL stuff here with you for a moment. I want, though, first to remind everybody a couple things. First, tomorrow, come down to Red's Bar and hang out with us right downtown on Ryman, one of a Missoula institution, as it were. And we're going to be down there from 4 to 6 doing the show. Going to be an open tab for you initially down there for the first folks who come through. Get yourself some free Woodmer Hefeweizens on tap down there at Reds. And we will be pulling yet another name for a pair of tickets to go to the Montana Grizzly versus Oregon football game. A grand time to be had. You must be present to win. We want you to be down there. So come hang out with us on a very nice Thursday afternoon. Enjoy the atmosphere. Go out maybe after the show. Get on the river. Do whatever you want to do. It's going to be a great time. So come down and hang out with us at Reds. Coulter, you're looking very svelte, my man.
Thanks.
It's happening here.
Thanks, dude.
And as much as I have given you a hard time, you've been very consistent on going to this sweat cycle and
That's
doing
right.
the thing.
25th class today.
Really?
Yep. So it's good. Yep. Down about 22 lbs.
Whoa.
Down about 2 belt loops. That's all I really care about.
See, I to lose 22 pounds, all I got to do is shave.
Well, yeah, I mean, me too. Shave my head and my beard, and bam, down 10.
There you go.
But no, sweatshops, sweat cycle classes at the sweatshop are great and really entertaining. But I actually do have something specific to talk about with these guys. They're hosting a spin-a-thon, which is going to be from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. 16 different teams from around Missoula, including proud sponsor of this show, Paradise Falls, has teams in this raising money for the Missoula Youth Home. So everybody's going to have a team that of 12 people. Everybody rides for an hour, and then you trade it off to the next person. But it's going to be a great event downtown Missoula, right on the corner there of Higgins and Broadway. And this spin-a-thon is actually going to be outsides too, so you can get a little sunshine. Nice. There's going to be a little party in the street. All sorts of different various Missoula businesses are going to be down there. So check them out, and it's a good cause that they're raising money to. Missoula Youth Homes. They have a goal of $20,000. So everybody, you can donate to a rider, either leading up to or during the event, and so it'll be a cool deal.
Tell them when it is again, Cole.
It's on Saturday, August 10th, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. downtown Missoula.
No, anything you can do to help Missoula Youth Homes is always a very good thing. So that's outstanding. It is Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, and Coulter. The NFL season, the Hall of Fame game was over the weekend. Tomorrow, bud. Tomorrow. A full slate of preseason football games in the NFL. Are you ready for this? I'm ready for this. Want to remind everybody now a couple things. Now we've got a lot of stuff going on. Okay, on ESPN Radio, we got of course this show, but also ESPN, as you may well know, is the official flagship station, the exclusive carrier of Missoula Osprey baseball all through the summer, and we are now the official flagship station, the carrier of Seattle Seahawk football in Western Montana. Very excited for this. For the preseason, there is Seahawk football and Osprey baseball on at the same time on many nights. And so what we're going to do is bring you the baseball and then bring you the football. That's how it's going to work. We'll join it kind of live as it's ongoing. But it is we're going to have it for you all year long. And then, of course, when we hit the regular season, just going to rock and roll with the Seattle Seahawks all football season long. So very excited about that, excited to have them in Seattle playing Denver. How about that? The old rivalry renewed. Great regional game tomorrow on ESPN Radio. So we will hit into that after we are done with the Osprey game tomorrow evening. But going to be a lot of fun to have the Seahawks on our radio waves all season long. And speaking of the NFL, I mean, of all the ways to get injured playing football, to get injured not playing football because you didn't wear the right footwear into a cryogenic freezer, that seems crazy. And I've seen the pictures. Now, here's the thing. Most of the rest of the country, when they find out that Antonio Brown frostbit his feet, goes, oh, man, okay, well, what does that mean? But around the state of Montana, we know good and darn well what it means to frostbite, and particularly to the degree, if you've seen the pictures, that Antonio Brown frostbit his feet. This is not like a, oh, man, bummer, little bit of pain. This is like this is a major, major problem. And, his foot is blistered and peeling, and I don't know how deep the freeze wet or in terms of into the foot and so forth and so on. But this is like, they are reporting that they don't think this is going to be too serious, that he's going to be coming back. But he has not practiced yet. And I know what frostbite can do. And I know the debilitating nature of it, to the point of course, like things like amputation and things like that if it's really bad. Now, this isn't that. But it's not just like, oh, I burned my finger on the stove. It's going to hurt for a couple days. I'm going to put some, stop the burn spray on it and we'll be good. And maybe there's a scar there or something like this. Like, this is bad here, especially on your feet, for crying out loud, if you're Antonio Brown. And I think this is being undersold to the public about the significance of this.
Well, I've long held the thought that there's a notion that if you have like a foot injury that's not a broken ankle, there's a lot of unfamiliarity with various foot injuries, whether it's plantar fasciitis or Liz Frank injury. You can have a Liz Frank fracture or turf toe. And how much did Deion Sanders get scrutinized because of turf toe?
Right.
He's soft. He can't play with turf toe.
Right.
Dude, if you've ever had turf toe, just cut it off. I'd rather cut it off than have it actually be. I mean, the way that your joint swells, it's basically like having inflamed and incredibly pulled ligaments around your toes.
Yeah.
Ugh. And then you play in a position like corner where you have to backpedal. The pain is just excruciating. My brother had turf toe last summer. You can't even swing a golf club, let alone play in an NFL game. So I guess what I'm getting at is if you have frostbite on your feet, that's going to be a detrimental injury to him. And the thing you got to worry about is not just the actual pain that it's going to cause for the next month or so, But it's that, and I went through this so bad. Do you know what a plantar's wart is?
Oh, yeah.
I had a plantar's wart on my foot that then like kind of grew, and it got pretty bad, and I had to go to a doc to get it out. And they first did this procedure where they took something that kind of burned it, made it blister, and then
Are you gonna make everybody stop listening?
It's terrible. It's terrible. Regardless, the point of it is that the most detrimental part of that deal was not, the limping around on a bum foot for 3 weeks or whatever. It was what limping around on a bum foot and favoring that foot does to the rest of your body. And then it's, when you're coming up on the season, if Antonio Brown is running even a little bit funny, then all of a sudden now your hips are out of line and you might have a bad back. And I mean, he's an absolutely elite athlete that's still on the tail end of, but still in his athletic prime.
Yeah.
But it's the favoring that kills you when you have lower extremity injuries. So, I mean, it's bad news for him. I mean, it's just bad luck, honestly, and bad planning. But make no mistake, foot injuries beyond just broken bones, broken toes, broken ankles, they'll kill you.
They will, and I certainly hope. I find it intriguing to see how Antonio Brown will work in this Oakland Raider offense, and I still am a tepid optimist about Derek Carr, and I am a general optimist about John Gruden and what he's going to be able to do with this football team and with the offense and so on. But that's a major. I mean, that was the major, obviously skill position guy and catalyst for the offense that they went and got and paid a lot of money to. And for this to have happened, I mean, it's just it just defies. This is one of those where you go, holy cow! I mean, this is worse to me in terms of the poor decision making than Jason Pierre-Paul. I mean, the result is worse for JPP. But look, you've been lighting off fireworks. The thing, you end up with a short fuse. Maybe you're messing around with it. Don't get me wrong, dumb. Okay, you can't do it if you're Jason Pierre-Paul. To go into a cryogenic freezer without, quote unquote, without the proper footwear, and I don't know what that means, but you are standing in these things. Like, that's the thing. You're on, whatever you're touching is freezing. So you go in there in socks? I mean, this is all-time dumb to have this happen to you. This, it's befuddling to me. And I got to think that Gruden is just out of his mind that this has happened. I mean, this is remarkable. Also in the NFL, Josh Gordon. How about this? Josh Gordon has officially applied for reinstatement. He has once again been suspended. He's still a part of the New England Patriots. He's a part of the organization, but he is. They have his rights. And NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell is the one and the only decision maker about his status. There's no board. There's no nothing else. It's Roger Goodell who will make the decision about this and have the plan in place. Gordon was suspended December 20th of last year. He missed the last 2 games and the playoffs for violating the terms of his reinstatement. Let's be very clear, too. This does not mean necessarily that he, in fact, used any prohibited substance or anything like that. I mean, we know that he's on a zero-tolerance policy when it comes to drugs and alcohol and all of that. But this was a violation of the terms of the agreement, of the the terms of the agreement that he had for being in the system, on the in the policy. I have no idea what terms he violated. I mean, I don't know if they have things in there like curfew, or something along those lines. All I'm saying is, I certainly don't know, and I don't know that it's out there what the specific thing that he violated was. So I'm not going to sit here and jump to conclusions. The idea that he is applying for reinstatement would actually suggest to me that it probably wasn't a substance issue in terms of what he actually did, because if it was that, you could just about bet that that's just a done deal. Like, you are no longer welcome here. But who knows? It's speculation on my part. But the fact that he is put in for that, I think, is of interest. I know that he was spotted throwing with Tom Brady, or I guess better said catching with Tom Brady in the offseason. And so, if that matters, if that means anything, I have no idea. But certainly trying to do it. Josh Gordon, sadly, was a shell of himself when he was, came back with the Browns and then ultimately went to the Patriots. A good, a wide receiver for them. Nothing like what he was 4 and 5 years ago. And I must say, I've rooted for Josh Gordon for a long time. I loved watching Josh Gordon play, and I certainly am still, hopeful and of course would like the best for him and his life and all of that. I am so disappointed because the fact of the matter is that we can never and will never get back the 45 games, the 3 to 4 years worth of games that he missed in the heart of his prime when he could have been and should have been one of the all-time greats, Coulter. He's catching 1,300 yards in a season from a mannequin in Cleveland. When he showed up and did what he did, it was beyond comprehension how big and fast he was, and while he is still certainly a competent NFL wide receiver, that ship has sailed, and that is disappointing because we could have been treated to one of the all-time greats.
I was thinking about this yesterday. It's so easy to be enamored by huge wide receivers. And when huge wide receivers are good, like Josh Gordon was for a moment in time, like Calvin Johnson was for the duration of his career, like Sammy Akem was for the Grizzlies last year.
Yeah. Andre Johnson,
it's easier to become even more enamored with those guys. But when you actually think about it, size has to be one of the most overrated parts of playing wide receiver at an absolutely elite level. Randy Moss is tall, but he's not big.
No.
Terrell Owens is a physical specimen, certainly, but he's 6'3". He's not 6'6". And most of the other great receivers in the history of the NFL, whether it's Jerry Rice or Marvin Harrison or Larry Fitzgerald, I mean, these guys are, make no mistake, they're big men, but they're not the 6'5". I mean, I would consider like elite size at wide receiver 6'5" or taller, even 6'4" or taller.
And generally, size is thought of in terms of height and range at the wide receiver spot, not so much in terms of physical strength or weight.
Right, but I just think it's interesting how for all the Calvin Johnsons, there's also been, David Bostons and Laquan Treadwells and, a bunch of other guys that have been largely disappointed. There's very few elite size wide receivers that have been elite skill wide receivers as well.
Well, and that's you're right about that.
That's why Josh Gordon was so great, though, because he was so big and so strong and so fast.
Well, it was the speed. In fact, I mean, what made Josh Gordon elite was not his size; it was his speed. But it was also, it was the combination. You hadn't. Who could you find that was that fast ever at that size? The answer is basically no one.
Randy Moss. But Randy Moss isn't as girthy as Josh Gordon.
Not nearly as big. Not nearly as big as Josh Gordon. And look, if you're that fast, you don't need to be big, right? Look at Tyreek Hill. But he was very fun to watch and to do it in Cleveland of all places. Where pretty clearly you have to say, yeah, it's all his responsibility because nobody's good playing here in Cleveland. This is going back, obviously, 4 or 5 years, but was something else. So we'll see. Who knows? Maybe Roger Goodell, finds him and he's back, but he at least has applied for the reinstatement, so we'll see what comes of it. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Coulter, ready for a Wing It Wednesday?
More baseball for you.
Okay.
Historic career leaders in 3 definitive baseball categories: hits, home runs, and RBIs. Let's talk about it.
329-1899. 329-1899, the number. You get yourself wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern. You get yourself perhaps a shirt as well. Joe got all the stuff in the first hour. You give us a call right now, 329-1899. Wing It Wednesday right after this.
The Big Sky Breakdown at SkylineSportsMT.com continues to give you the inside look from around the Big Sky Conference and the state of Montana. The most in-depth podcast in the Treasure State gives you multiple episodes each week year-round with commentary, analysis, interviews, and entertainment from around one of the most storied conferences in the West.
Whether it's full uncut interviews with Montana State head football coach Jeff Choate or Travis DeCure's thoughts on his outstanding Montana men's basketball team, everything you need to hear is available on the Big Sky Breakdown. Take a look inside the best stories in the conference and the most detailed analysis in the state. The Big Sky Breakdown, it has you covered.
Whether it's X's and O's acumen of Brooks Nuanez or the comedic banter of Ryan Tutel or the dry humor of Andrew Houghton.
And don't forget the best connections to everybody that matters in the sports world across the Big Sky Conference from Colton Nuanez. And by the way, thank you for calling me funny.
You're welcome. The Big Sky Breakdown will present you with all of it and more at SkylineSportsMT.com.
The Big Sky Breakdown, proudly presented by Town Pump Food Stores and Selway Armory. Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, who pump it up.
When summer nights are a little long, Town Pump will wake you up. Swing into Town Pump on your way to work and grab a high brew 11-ounce coffee for you and a friend. Buy one, get one free. Stay hydrated in the Montana heat with Arrowhead 1 liters. Buy one, get one free at Town Pump.
Town Pump, right down the road. Pump it up, oh yeah.
More bedrooms, a big yard, better commute. Whatever your reason to buy a new home, it's the right reason. In a tough housing market, the smartest thing you can do is pre-qualify for a loan before you start looking. Farmers State Bank makes it easier than ever to start the loan process with online checklists, forms, and calculators. Your dream home is out there. Get started today at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of The Advocates. Josh, do most injury accidents end up in court?
Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court through a fair negotiation with an insurance company. However, sometimes it is necessary. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get a fair settlement. Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court with a fair negotiation with the insurance company. However, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get the right settlement for you.
It's Josh at The Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. The Montana Grizzlies started fall camp officially on Sunday, but hit the practice grass on Dornblazer for the first time yesterday. Temperatures have been around 90 degrees the last couple of days. UM will ultimately practice 28 times over the next month, leading up to their August 31st opener at South Dakota. Montana has missed the playoffs for the last 3 seasons, that coming on the heels of having made the FCS playoffs 23 of the previous 25 years before that. That includes a college football record 27 consecutive trips.
Terrible news from over the weekend. Deontay Strickland, a two-sport athlete at Portland State who was a contributor for the Portland State men's basketball team each of the last 2 years and slated to play running back for the Portland State football team, shot dead by his sister Friday in Portland. He was just 22. More information forthcoming.
Over the weekend, the Grizz got a verbal commitment from Journey Grimsrud, a 6'3", 240-pound All-State lineman from Huntley Project. The senior-to-be was an all-conference selection on offense and defense last season and is expected to play defense at Montana. Grimsrud placed second at the State BC Wrestling Tournament and as a heavyweight division and won his Class B discus throw.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Aspen Sound.
yourself some wings to the Desperado Sports Tavern, give us a call, 329-1899. 406-329-1899, the phone number. Get in here, and we'll do some trivia with you. It is Tutel Nuanez. We are
Caller
broadcasting
Tommy is on the
live
line
from the Kurtz Polaris Studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. And online at kurtzpolaris.com. Oh, this is what that's why. Okay. I didn't understand exactly what was going on here. Calling out. We do have a caller, a participant for the Wing It Wednesday. So we go now to the phones, to the Reagan Brothers RV phone line. We welcome in Tommy to the show. Hello, Tommy.
Hey, Reese, can you hear me in the studio?
Tommy, hello.
Oh, hi, Ryan. What's going on?
Yes, we can hear you in the studio. We can hear you on the radio. You've been patched all the way through for a Wing It Wednesday.
Oh, really? I called it the right time then.
Yeah, you did. See, you called the studio to attend to some sort of electronic disaster that's invariably happening while we're on the air. But instead, what you've been done is patched through as the caller for the Wing It Wednesday trivia.
Oh, this is hilarious.
So are you...
Well, actually, this is actually what I wanted because neither the show producer or either of the two guys on the air will respond to me. And I'm trying to let you know that people out there in the world, they can't hear you, man. Your mic is way too low. So I've got to call the show to get these levels squared away from across town.
You can hear me. I can hear myself.
Yeah, because I'm patched into your phone line,
I'm going to turn it up as high as it'll go. You know?
You got to crank yours up. You got to bring Coulter down. Reese, it's mic processor 1 in the studio if it's not enough. This is already sounding a lot better to me. So, all right, I'll let you guys go.
Wait,
have a good show.
Oh, so you're not okay? So you're not going to do it? No, he's so upset. Tommy's so mad right now, Coulter. How absolutely red hot is he right now that he just was on the air doing this? Huh?
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
He is going just into a rage. Just wouldn't even consider answering a trivia question. Just hangs up immediately and does that.
That's why you can never leave this show.
329-1899 is the phone number. If you would like to do a Wing It Wednesday in Tommy's place, you're certainly welcome to do just that. I'm sorry my mic was low. I'm sorry. I try to keep the thing, in unity, as they say. I'm trying to keep everything in unity today. You, Tommy, the mic levels, all of it. My family's driving back from Wisconsin right now, Coulter.
How many left turns does that include?
Fortunately, just the none.
That's good.
Zoe always asks me, she says, Dad, are we going on the highway? I said, yeah. Hey, Dad, how come we never take the low way?
It's pretty good.
Good question, kiddo. Her grandmother said, Zoe, you're really funny. And you know what she said? 4 years old. It's because I'm a middle child. Anyway, enough with the kids' anecdotes because I know that they're really only funny to me. Telling kids stories is only good to people who know the kid.
Right.
It's sort of like you can talk about your fantasy football team all day long to other people in your fantasy football league, but no one else cares. And you could have the greatest picture in the world, the most beautiful baby ever, and I don't care about it if I don't know you or them. Don't show me your family pictures. You know what I mean?
I agree.
I'm sorry to share these stories with the community.
I am so about the fantasy football thing. If you have a fantasy football thing for me, just don't. I don't care.
Oh, I
don't care.
All year
I don't
long.
care. Don't care. I do not care. I don't even care about my own fantasy team. How am I going to care about somebody else's?
Now, is this correct? Last year in this fantasy league, in our fantasy league with the people out there, that you, Regime, and I finished third to last, second to last, and last?
No, I finished 8th, but you finished last. Dead last.
I don't know that you did finish 8th.
I did finish 8th. I made it to the playoffs and lost in the first round. I was the last seed.
8-person playoff?
Yeah.
Very generous.
12-person league.
Now, you and I
also drafted Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah,
which put me behind the 8 ball the whole time.
Well, he apologized to you, so that should take the sting out of it.
I am so close to just stepping away. Just never playing again.
Coulter, listen to you, man. This is what I'm talking about. This is why I'm legitimately worried about your well-being when you sit here and you say these crazy things like you're not going to play fantasy football.
I have never thought fantasy football is fun, and I also think it's like the most putrid toxification of the minds of football fans in America. I feel like the football is the most popular sport America's ever seen. And I feel like the majority of people that follow football don't even get football, and fantasy football perpetuates the fact that they don't get it.
Let me tell you something.
People think Kirk Cousins is good because of fantasy football. Period. Argument over.
People think that Taylor Swift is good because of YouTube.
Taylor Swift is so much better at singing than Kirk Cousins is at quarterback.
It was actually a poor example. People think Creed is good.
Creed is so much better than Kirk Cousins.
I'm so close to muting this. I really, if we wouldn't have had this come together moment earlier in the show, you would have gotten muted right there. But I didn't want to break down what we've built up over the course of this last
God, I'm going to go
90 minutes.
listen to so much Creed. I'm going to play Creed while you're watching Hard Knocks.
Oh, no. That's a hard no. See, here's the thing. Here's my theory about fighting. You always talk about how great fighting is. You want to hear my fighting theory? You want to hear my fighting theory?
What?
The person that wins in a fight is the person that's got more to fight for.
Okay.
I will win in a fight if it's you playing Creed. There's not many fights I would win against you. I admit this, okay? But if you start playing Creed, you're going to lose that fight.
Well, yeah, because I'll be singing.
With your leg up, full Scott Stapp style. Brutal. Anyway, my point is the masses... And we are all the masses in some respects. We're only you can only be an expert or quote unquote get it about some limited number of things in the world. Beyond that, like cereal, what do I know about cereal? Nothing. The boxes that I see in stores, guaranteed there's somebody out there goes, these morons keep eating these stupid cereals. This is what the cereal you got to eat, but I don't care. All I want is just something in my bowl so I can eat and not be hungry anymore. You know? Well, guess what? Fantasy football, if it's ruining the minds of football fans because now all we care about is who cares? They're watching the games. Now I care about the Jags-Titans Thursday nighter when I would have never. So what if all I'm doing is waiting for Corey Davis to catch one football? You know? So what? So I don't get it, but I wasn't going to get it before. Listen, the coaches... One reason that they don't want to talk to anybody is because no one knows what they know about what it is that they're up to. It's a very intricate game. It's very complex. You do the installations. You do the game plans. No one, quote-unquote, gets it that hasn't been there and spent a ton of time doing it and learning it. So give me my fantasy football, give me my Taylor Swift, and leave me alone.
To me, it's more than just about – I agree. It's good for the interest of the game. I just think it marginalizes so many important positions on the football field. There are so many people that are just hardcore NFL fans that can name the third-string running back for the Philadelphia Eagles, but they don't know who Taylor Lewan is. They don't know who, Jamal Adams is. They don't know who these players are, and these guys are way better than the goofball you're drafting to be your handcuff running back for whenever Jerick McKinnon gets hurt.
No, but you're 100% right about this, but here's where you're ascribing blame where it can't be, okay? Fantasy football has made it so that people do know the third-string running back on a football team, whereas they would never have before.
Right.
But they still, even without fantasy football, would not know who Taylor Lewan was. They wouldn't. People have never watched the lines. Never.
But there's no college fantasy football, right?
Well, there is.
And people that follow college football, they know the linemen on their best. No. They know the safeties. They know all sorts of stuff.
No.
Look, more at a higher level than people do in the NFL.
People who are fans of teams know the guys on their teams. All the guys on their teams.
Who's the starting center for the Green Bay Packers?
Corey Linsley.
Who's the starting right guard?
Well, I don't know if he's right guard or left guard. David Bakhtiari.
Name 5. No, he plays tackle.
Okay, well, that's pretty good then by me.
Name 5 defensive players on the Packers.
Amos, King, Smith.
They got Adrian Amos.
Yep, from the Bears.
That's nice.
Smash Amos. State. Smash Amos. On Twitter, great handle. Smash Amos. You can't do better than that. They cut Mike Daniels now.
He's in Detroit now, right?
Blake Martinez, linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Got to get one more. I can think of one more. Oh, Josh Jones. Safety, NC State, second year.
Okay.
Coming into his second year.
Congratulations. I just think that so much of it promotes even a false narrative. I think that so much about the coverage of football in general promotes a false narrative. I can't tell you how nauseating it is to me to hear the pundits talk about the explosion of offenses in the NFL. It's the pace of the game that's increased, and it's the rules that have changed. But defenses in the NFL are not even close the best they've ever been. Ever. The open field tackling in the NFL is ridiculous.
But no argument here. But the issue is, you want to know what the issue is? Football. It's a hard game to get. Really hard.
Right. I just think that the miseducation of America is unfortunate.
Well, believe me,
I think that every single person,
areas, yes.
I think that every single person that loves the NFL would love it even more if they understood it in a better and more accurate level.
Generally, that's true. You like the music more when you understand what's really going on, the story behind the story.
Yep.
I'd love to sit there. You know what I want to do? I want to sit down. I want Marty Morningwig to come over. In fact, let me say that differently. I want to go to Marty Morningwig's house.
Yes.
He can come to my house anytime, but the experience is probably better at his house. And just sit here and tell me. Just tell me everything. Just lay it out there and explain it to me. And that is the thing that really is lacking, because you get a lot of analysis and assessment, but what you don't get is a lot of insight by people who can explain it, because it's a hard thing to do. I mean, if a doctor wanted to explain to you a surgery, he could say to you, well, we did this and we did this and we did this, but there's so much that you don't understand about how and why and the intricacies of what it would take to get that done, and it's also very difficult to sort of explain that to a layperson, I would presume. Right? Well, I don't know that you and I are lay people as it pertains to football, but we're also, you're more of an expert than I am, but we're not coaches. You know what I mean?
No, totally.
So you need that person to come in and help you out. We're late. Quick break. 329-1899. You want to do a Wing It Wednesday? We'll do it next.
What do you get when you mix every NFL preseason game? Cold beer and the best wings in Missoula? The Desperado Sports Tavern. The Desperado is Missoula's premier Southside sports tavern. With 32 HD TVs, there's not a chance you'll miss a second of every NFL preseason game. It's time to start watching your favorite players and building your fantasy team at the Desperado. That's cold beer, NFL preseason, the best wings in Missoula, and you at the Desperado Sports Tavern. Located on Russell, across from the Y.
Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift this summer or any time of year. If you are traveling, bring a gift that is distinctly Montana and give your loved ones some of the best spices anywhere around. From the Alpine Touch Pick 4 Spice Pack to the All-Purpose Twin Pack to the mouth-watering sunflower shoots to Alpine Touch gift cards. Alpine Touch makes the perfect Montana present. Available at retail locations around the state or online for a limited time. Use the code ESPN10 at checkout to get 10% off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
The Polaris Factory Authorized Clearance is here. The world's best-selling off-road lineup is priced to move with financing as low as 3.99% and rebates up to $3,500. Live life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. The best deals of the year are happening now. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $3,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Factory Authorized Clearance. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Kurtz Polaris is now showcasing all of the new 2020 Polaris off-road vehicles. To be the first to get a great deal on brand new state-of-the-art Polaris vehicles at Kurtz Polaris. Online at KurtzPolaris.com. Rebates valid in U.S. through 9/30/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Financing offer valid on 2015s through 2020s. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
Welcome to today's lottery drawing. And today's winning numbers are not yours, not yours, and another number that's not yours. And the final number is not yours.
When it comes to having money, don't rely on luck. Brew your own coffee at home instead of buying that latte. Brown bag it to work instead of ordering it. Go to feedthepig.org for more free ideas on how to save. Feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants and the Ad Council.
If it matters to Missoula, it matters to us. Ryan Tutel and Colter Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio.
To Red's Bar for the show. You got to come hang out with us. We want to see you. We want to give you tickets to go to the Grizz Oregon Ducks game. We want to give you free beer. That should be enough. And also, Colter and I will be there. That should be, well, icing on the cake, as they say. It is Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. A Wednesday show. Heading straight down towards the end of the day. Hope you're having a good one. Your day is off. Hope you're enjoying yourselves. Thanks for being with us. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway, Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at KurtzPolaris.com. You want to listen live? You can go to 1029ESPN.com. There, you can listen to the stream. The stream's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it is available thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. If you have missed anything in this show, we got you covered on the podcast. The podcast available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify and on Stitcher. You know, there's this big news that iTunes was going away. I haven't heard anything. I was using iTunes the other day. It seems like it's there. Am I missing something about this?
I don't know. Ask Tommy. Tommy knows everything.
But I don't know if he does. I think he just makes proclamations and then walks away.
Sounds like he's perfect for ESPN Radio. Maybe I can trade him.
Yeah, you be the engineer, which
no. Tommy actually is the engineer for life. That's unnegotiable.
Signed, sealed, and delivered.
Yeah. No, I was just talking about my Dave Matthews Band hour on the trail for 7 hours straight every afternoon.
Now, how pumped are you? Oh, first of all, before we do this, the podcast is available thanks to Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. So go listen there, rate it, review it, all that kind of stuff. Thank you. Colter, speaking of Dave Matthews, now you went to your first, is this right, your first ever Dave Matthews show? Now, you love Dave Matthews Band.
Love.
And I'm with you on this. I think very much of Dave. And I don't know Dave Matthews to the extent that you do, but I do like him a lot. I've seen Dave Matthews in concert at the Gorge, and you went to your first ever Dave Matthews concert last summer. Is that correct?
I did. I only went to one of the 3 days of the Gorge.
So, and for those of you who don't know, what do they call it? It's got a name, doesn't it? Like the 3 days that he does at the Gorge every
It's just
year?
Dave Matthews at the Gorge. A lot of people call it Grateful Dave.
Grateful Dave.
Because it's very much like the
looking for.
Grateful Dead with all the tents and the campers and stuff.
Yeah, but
so that part's a little bit overwhelming. I don't really know what I think of the irony of off-the-grid consumerism, but that's a different topic for a different day.
I mean, everybody's got to live. Y'all got to eat, whether it's in a tent, whether it's Tommy's.
I know. I just find it ironic that you think you're going on this spiritual journey, which in a lot of ways it is, because that's an epic venue.
Yes, it is.
And it's an epic experience because Dave Matthews Band is outrageously good in concerts.
Yes. They are. They're as good at their instruments as we are at sports radio.
but sharing that with 35,000 people at the tune of $200 a pop it's interesting.
Well,
I'm very cynical today. If you haven't noticed,
I mean, Good gracious.
Bring it, hit me with it.
So anyway, my point is that you went. Now I also saw Dave Matthews at the Gorge, but this happens an annual thing, Labor Day weekend every year. Book it. Dave Matthews is going to play at the Gorge 3 days, and I don't know how to explain it. It's even though it's 3 separate concerts and you could go to any one of them and have a wonderful sort of self-contained time. The experience is being there for the 3 days. Like it's built to be, I think, musically kind of a holistic, a totalitarian weekend in terms of you're taking the whole thing, all, whatever it is, 100 songs that they're going to play over the course of 3 days, 9-10 hours of music. For goodness sakes, that's a lot and a lot of fun. And so this time you're doing it. You're taking the full plunge and you're going over there and you're doing all 3 days.
I am indeed.
See this? Look at you. You finally smiled at me for the first time in like 7. All I needed to do was remind you of a Dave Matthews concert at the Gorge, and even with your cynicism, you're grinning from ear to ear.
It's gonna be a great time.
Okay,
can't wait.
I'm
it's the first time I've ever been able to do it. I've never been able to do it because it's always the opening weekend of college football, and it still is. But the teams are on the road. Both the Cats and the Grizz are out of the state.
Yep.
Grizz are in Vermilion, South Dakota, which that is next to impossible to get to. And the Cats are in Lubbock, Texas, which is also real difficult to get into.
I cannot wait for you to come back from Dave Matthews on Labor Day. And on Tuesday, which will be our first show back after those games, you just drained but overjoyed watching football a mile a minute and just taking it all in. Oh, it's going to be such a great weekend for your brain.
I mean, I'm going to watch the games.
Well, of course.
The concert's not until 8 at night, so I'll be on there.
I thought the games, are they day games on that first
Cats,
weekend?
Texas Tech just set the Cats game at 3 o'clock. just to make sure that everybody involved melts.
Oh,
I mean, August 31st, 3 p.m. It's going to be 110 degrees.
I mean, you're playing an FCS team, and you go, oh, Montana, huh? How about 3? How about why not 307 just to make sure it hits in the heart of it?
First day of practice at Montana State.
Oh,
lightning strikes in the background. They have to call it. They have to do it. Go take a 30-minute break before they come back out. As we're running off, Choate says, maybe it'll just light the field on fire and we can come back out and practice in that. Because that's actually what we're going to need to get acclimated.
I mean, like you said, there's no acclimation. There's no acclimation.
No, there's none.
Oh, 3 o'clock. Okay, so 3 o'clock. What time is that South Dakota game?
Good question. I stay tuned. I'll get it to you in about 3.6 seconds.
Okay, keep counting.
The Grizzlies are at Vermilion, South Dakota. It looks as if 1 p.m. Mountain Time.
Okay, so that'll be cool.
They're inside though.
No, I'm just talking.
I believe
about,
South Dakota's.
I'm just.
I can watch it. Right.
I'm just talking about the time as it pertains to the day. You get yourself a. Is that the first day of the concert, the Saturday, or is the Friday?
No, Friday.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but not Monday.
Not Monday.
But it is Labor Day.
It is.
So it gives everybody a chance to get back to their respective homes and lives.
Indeed.
Boys and girls, tomorrow we are at Red's Bar. Come see us down there. Ryman, 217 Ryman Street. We're going to have a great time down there. Bunch of giveaways, free beer, tickets to go to the Grizzly Oregon Duck football game, and Coulter and I. What more could you ask for? We'll see you down there tomorrow. Have a great evening. Good night. Hi, boys and girls. Ryan Tutel
and Coulter Nuanez
from Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio, from your very favorite Tutel Nuanez podcast, and now officially Gracious Mercy on television statewide.
That's right. We've been doing a radio show and a podcast since August of 2017, and now it's time for us to expand our reach into statewide television on SWX.
We're on SWX every weekday from 4 to 6 live on your televisions. It's available on channel 199 on Spectrum Cable or on 23.3 on your antenna television. And you can download the Watch SWX app and get us that way on your phones and devices as well.